One of the most distinct memories I have from my childhood is coming home from school in the afternoon and scrambling to make it in front of the television by 4 o'clock. And what happened at 4 o'clock?
Every day when you're walking down the street.
Oh, just one of the best children's television shows in history. It was like a ritual. Every day at 4 p.m., I would turn the television on to Channel 34 and enjoy another episode of Arthur, a show about a young aardvark and his friends navigating through the events of their everyday lives. The show was one of my absolute favorites growing up, and even today, I still look back on the show with very fond memories. Now, flash forward about 10 years. I'm now in my early 20s, trying desperately to balance the stress of a full-time college schedule and working multiple jobs. It's about 8 o'clock at night, and I turn on the television, and I start flipping channels, when all of a sudden, I hear a familiar theme song. And sure enough, there he was again, my favorite aardvark and his pals, singing the theme song to this awesome television show from my past. But I was confused. It's about 8 o'clock at night. It's much too late for Arthur to be running on PBS Kids. Maybe this was some kind of documentary about the show. I kept watching, but sure enough, it was just a normal episode of Arthur. I was intrigued. And then even after Arthur had come on, more of my favorites from my childhood appeared on screen, including Cyberchase, Word Girl, Sesame Street, and more. There were also plenty of new shows, some that I had heard of, like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood and Wildcrats, as well as plenty that were completely new to me, such as Let's Go Luna and Pinkalicious and Peterific.
Get ready! PBS Kids is growing bigger and better than ever! Because now you can watch even more of your favorite shows anytime you want on the new 24/7 PBS Kids channel.
After doing a bit of research, I learned that Dayton, along with many other cities across the nation, had adopted a 24/7 PBS station dedicated exclusively to broadcasting programming that was traditionally part of the PBS channel's PBS Kids programming block. And so as an educator, this was so exciting to hear. The development of a 24/7 channel that was dedicated to educational television shows available on a free national distributor would allow for so many more children to have access to quality television programming. Along with the television channel, there's also a mobile app that was developed called the PBS Kids Video app, which contained on-demand full episodes and special clips of all of the shows on the station, as well as a live stream of that 24/7 television channel. Just like the television channel, this app was completely free, and it was available to anybody with access to an internet connection. When the COVID-19 pandemic resulted in widespread lockdowns during March of 2020, I found myself watching the 24/7 PBS Kids channel a lot. There was so much uncertainty about the future. My classes had all hastily moved into an online format, most of my jobs had shut down operations, my physical and mental health were both declining, and I was deeply concerned about how the virus was going to impact myself and my loved ones. There was something very deeply comforting about the simplicity of the shows that I saw on the channel. And while so many people would be quick to write these shows off as silly cartoons, the more I watched them, the more I became aware of the seriousness and importance of these shows. I distinctly remember watching an episode of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood late one night. And granted, I had never really watched the show before, and for that matter, I hadn't even watched much of the original Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood that the Daniel Tiger series was based off of. While I was familiar with who Fred Rogers was and the impact that his work had had on generations of young children, I personally had never really sat down and watched a full episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. In that vein, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood came into my life at exactly the right time. It came at a time when I, and I'm sure many, many others across the nation, were upset and confused and scared by all of the rapid changes and uncertainty going on in the world. I remember that night as Daniel was talking with his mother about his struggles with dealing with his own emotions, how simply in awe I was about how eloquently this seemingly simple cartoon was able to spread its message. Even myself, a 21-year-old who was almost certainly way too old to be watching a show aimed for a demographic of preschool children, was so deeply moved by the gentleness and acceptance displayed by the characters in the show, so much so that I continued to consume as much of the show as I possibly could. And the more I became engrossed in the show, the more I became fascinated by the writing and the music involved in the series. Every episode of the show featured a song that would further elaborate on the socio-emotional lesson being taught in the episode. And while these songs were typically pretty simple, as a music educator, I was fascinated by the idea of music being used to further reinforce the lesson being taught in the episode. It was at that time that I decided to study how other shows on PBS Kids utilized music in their programming and determine if the inclusion of music in these series would significantly impact the educational experience. Over the past year and a half, I've spent hundreds of hours watching various PBS Kids shows to determine how certain programs utilize music and explore the overall impact of children's educational television. In this video essay, I hope to accomplish 3 things. I want to explore the history of children's television, I want to explain how music can be used as an educational tool, and I want to analyze the ways in which current PBS Kids programming utilizes music through an educational lens. So, with all that being said, let's get started, neighbor. Television as we know it today is the result of many, many different people and developments, beginning all the way back in the 18th century. The earliest televisions were actually mechanical, rather than electric in nature. This model was championed by inventor John Logie Baird. He made the first public demonstration of the mechanical television in January of 1926. Mechanical televisions allowed for the transmission of still images without film by utilizing rotating discs called Nipkow discs. These discs had small holes in them, and as the discs spun, light from the transmitter was able to shine through the holes, illuminating the object that was being filmed. The light would also trigger a sensor that captured the light pattern and transmitted an electric signal, which would travel via radio waves to a receiver. The receiver also had a Nipkow disc, and upon receiving the transmission, the disc would sync up with the rotations of the Nipkow disc inside of the transmitter, which allowed for the original scanned image to be reproduced by the receiver. The images transmitted via mechanical television were extremely blurry and low resolution. The model was also a bit limited in its potential. Only a few holes could actually be put into a disc, and Nipkow discs could also be unreliable, or even dangerous. Depending upon the structural integrity of the transmitter or the receiver and the speed of the rotation of the discs, Nipkow discs could actually fly off, potentially causing serious injury or damage. However, despite the primitive nature of these televisions, they were extremely important to the development of electronic television, which more closely resembles our modern perception of television. It's also important to note that mechanical televisions were the most predominant television model throughout the 1930s, until it was ultimately replaced by electronic televisions. One of the most notable contributors to our modern ideas of television was a man named Philo Taylor Farnsworth. Around the same time Baird had been working on his mechanical television, a young Farnsworth began developing initial ideas for an electronic television. This electronic television was built around cathode ray tubes, rather than the Nipkow disc system that had been utilized in mechanical televisions. Cathode ray tubes, often referred to as CRT, have a fluorescent screen that emits a visible light when struck by electrons. These visible lights appear in the form of images, and Farnsworth realized that these images could be reproduced almost instantly when scanned by an electronic beam. In 1927, he was able to transmit the first ever all-electronic television picture. All of these scientific efforts evolved into the very first television broadcasts. Unfortunately, there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding some of these early broadcasts. Some of the programs were only transmitted to a small handful of television sets, making it extremely hard to determine what was actually the very first television broadcast. The first widespread television broadcast wouldn't occur until a few more decades. It wasn't until after World War II that television took hold in the popular culture, replacing radio as the primary medium for entertainment and becoming a worldwide phenomenon. The popularity of the television spread like wildfire. In 1950, there were approximately 3 million television owners. By the end of the decade, that number grew exponentially to over 55 million television owners, watching programs from over 530 stations broadcasting all across the country. Television shows such as The Adventures of Superman, Leave It to Beaver, and I Love Lucy became ingrained in the public consciousness. In spite of its raging popularity, television still faced some very outspoken critics. Television quickly gained a reputation as the quote-unquote boob tube, a term used to describe much of the mindless or offensive programming that was broadcast on the airwaves. Many felt that television was making people dumber, sucking people into the flashy facade of formulaic family comedies or the gory violence of Western gangsters and urban private eyes. These trends in television programming continued for the 1960s, and many wondered about the impact that television was having on very young children. Television programming for children varied tremendously in quality. The very first television program explicitly aimed at children was the BBC's Children's Hour in the UK, an adaptation of the popular radio program that had aired in the United Kingdom beginning in 1946. Children's Hour served as a collection of multiple different series, such as Toy Town, Crackerjack, Meet the Penguins, and the Wooden Tops. Some of these series were adapted from the radio program, while others were original creations for the television broadcast. The television show frequently employed puppets to represent the different characters, although it did include an ample cast of human actors and actresses as well. The series portrayed on Children's Hour focused on quick-witted humor and cartoon violence in order to capture and maintain children's attention. Early children's television in America was fairly similar to what we saw with the BBC's Children's Hour. The very first widely broadcast children's television show in the United States was Howdy Doody in 1947. The show was a variety show starring the titular puppet and his best friends, Buffalo Bob and Clarabelle Clown, incorporating vaguely Western and circus-like themes. One of the biggest appeals of the program was its frequent employment of lowbrow, slapstick humor, which was absolutely adored by children. Within a few years, we saw the rise of Saturday morning cartoons. While animated cartoons had been extremely popular for decades in movie theaters, television provided an opportunity for these cartoons to reach wider audiences on a more consistent basis. Production companies such as Hanna-Barbera thrived on television, producing classics such as Tom and Jerry and Scooby-Doo. Some of their cartoons, such as the Flintstones and the Jetsons, were aired during primetime programming blocks on weekday evenings. Other popular cartoons at the time included the Looney Tunes, Heckle and Jekyll, and Woody Woodpecker. Around the same time, in 1955, another children's television program took the nation by storm. Captain Kangaroo became a beloved variety show for children, ultimately running for nearly 30 years. Much like the other children's programming at the time, Captain Kangaroo was a variety show. There was no set format for the program, and viewers never knew quite what to expect in each episode. The show employed cartoons, puppets, and unique human performers to bring the show to life. The show included comedic elements, but it also began to deviate away from some of that non-stop movement and humor that had already become standard for children's programming at the time. Unlike other shows at the time, Captain Kangaroo did not condescend towards its child audience. In fact, the show demonstrated that children would appreciate the richer content of the series. There were even some educational elements incorporated into the show. In some episodes, for example, Captain Kangaroo would include a reading story session, which would introduce children to classic children's books of the day, such as Curious George, Make Way for Ducklings, and Caps for Sale. Alongside all of the comedy and fun, Captain Kangaroo proved that television could potentially be used in diverse ways, and not just to keep children occupied and out of mischief for an hour. In February of 1968, children in America were introduced to a brand new neighborhood by Mr. Fred Rogers in a new series entitled Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Compared to the loud and energetic shows that had preceded it, Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood took a unique approach. The show was quiet and gentle, with many instances of Mr. Rogers speaking directly to the children through the screen. Rather than simply entertaining children, Mr. Rogers sought to validate them in ways that had never been done before. The show explored themes of understanding your different feelings and developing emotional intelligence, a concept that was not widely talked about or even understood at the time of the show's initial premiere. Rogers still utilized puppets in the show, with some of the most memorable being King Friday the 13th, Lady Elaine Fairchild, and of course, Daniel Striped Tiger. However, the use of puppets in the show was very different from how they had been utilized in shows like the BBC's Children's Hour or Howdy Doody. Instead of being utilized as comedic sidekicks, the puppets had very unique personalities. They had character development, they responded to the world around them, they had unique thoughts and feelings, even feelings that are often perceived as negative, such as anger or sadness. They encountered difficult topics such as racism, terrorism, divorce, and death. Daniel Striped Tiger, in particular, was designed to represent the innocence and curiosity of the children who watched the show as they engaged and interacted with the world around them. Daniel often served as a vehicle for representing these complex emotions on screen. He was afraid of different things. He would get angry, he would feel shame, or even find himself believing that he himself was a mistake. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood never shied away from these difficult topics and emotions. In one off-camera interview, Fred Rogers once said, "Confronting our feelings and giving them appropriate expression always takes strength, not weakness. It takes strength to acknowledge our anger, and sometimes more strength yet to curb the aggressive urges anger may bring and channel them into non-violent outlets. It takes strength to face our sadness and to grieve, and to let our grief and our anger flow in tears when they need to. It takes strength to talk about their feelings and to reach out for help and comfort when we need it." Even today, years after the series ended and his passing in 2003, many children and adults alike still tune into The Neighborhood for the non-judgmental emotional comfort and validation of Mr. Fred Rogers. The show made a tremendous impact in how audiences perceived television, as well as the ways in which creators believed that it could be utilized in the future. While Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood was an outstanding program for children, it didn't come until a bit later in the history of television. Many people believed that the boob tube was a waste of time, turning viewers into lazy, undereducated idiots by distracting audiences away from more fulfilling pastimes such as reading books or playing outside. People were very concerned about the impact of television on children, noting that very young kids were often completely enamored by the flashing lights, colors, and movements that they saw on screen. Television continued to grow tremendously. By the late 1960s, 97% of all American households had a television set, and preschool-age children were watching approximately 27 hours of television a week. It was clear that television wasn't going anywhere, and so this led to a group of some very special people to ask, what if? In 1966, Joan Gans Cooney, Louis Friedman, Lloyd Morissette, and Ann Bauer met and discussed their thoughts on how television was impacting young children. They were disappointed by much of the standard children's fare being broadcast on television stations, and they were concerned by how addicting television had become for so many young children. However, they were also impressed by Captain Kangaroo and the ways in which that program interacted with its young audience. Captain Kangaroo demonstrated that children's television did not have to be condescending towards children, and it got Cooney wondering if it was possible that the popularity of television could be harnessed as a tool. She wrote a groundbreaking report entitled "The Potential Uses of Television for Preschool Education," and this paved the way for the creation of the Children's Television Workshop. From there, Cooney and a small team of creative directors got together to create a show aimed at helping disadvantaged inner-city preschoolers get ready for school and prepare them for academic success later in life. They partnered with puppeteer Jim Henson to create lovable, colorful characters. The end result was a little show named Sesame Street. Sesame Street was absolutely groundbreaking. The show was the first of its kind, designed to teach preschool children letters and numbers, as well as develop a strong sense of community and connectedness. The show's urban setting and diverse cast of Muppets and human actors helped make the show relatable for many inner-city youths, and the show continued to gain popularity for years to come. Perhaps most notably, it was effective in reaching its goals of educating young children. In 1970 and 1971, just a couple of years after the show's initial debut, Children's Television Workshop recruited the Educational Testing Service, or the ETS, to evaluate the educational influence of the show. The ETS's report demonstrated that the show had a positive impact on low-income students' educational performance, and since then, more than 1,000 other studies have been conducted confirming the show's educational scope. A big reason for the show's educational success was that Children's Television Workshop had employed a team of educators to develop a curriculum for the show, and they utilized different educational strategies, such as modeling, repetition, and humor to get that curriculum across. Beyond their cognitive goals of teaching children letters and numbers, the show also had affective goals in the realm of what was seen on shows like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. These affective goals included developing social awareness, understanding tolerance, resolving conflicts, embracing diversity, and achieving self love and acceptance. These goals became more emphasized as the show entered its second season, and they continue to be a huge part of the show today. As the show continued for the years, the show would touch on some serious topics, such as coping after natural disasters, fighting against racism, and even understanding death and loss. The show's Muppet and human cast continues to represent many diverse people, including people of different backgrounds, religions, races, ages, and abilities. Sesame Street was extremely well received by children and critics alike. The show has become an international sensation, and 30 international adaptations of the show are broadcast in 120 countries around the world. The show has won more Daytime Emmy Awards than any other television program, as well as several Peabody recognitions and countless other awards. The show initially aired on National Educational Television, or NET, which is now known as the Public Broadcasting Service, or PBS. Sesame Street, now in its 52nd season, has made its home on both HBO and on PBS Kids. The state of children's educational television remained largely stagnant for a couple of decades following the premiere of Sesame Street. However, during that time, National Educational Television, which had housed shows such as Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street, transitioned into the Public Broadcasting Service, often referred to simply as PBS. PBS began operations in October of 1970, and it took over many of the children's programs that had initially been aired on NET, as well as other shows such as Captain Kangaroo, which had previously been hosted by CBS. The network continued to host a small block of programming dedicated to children during the day, and it would transition into more adult-oriented content in the evenings. It wasn't until the mid-1990s when there was a great surge in the availability of children's television programming, with all-day cable networks such as Nickelodeon and the Disney Channel amassing large child audiences. Concerns rose about the lack of quality or educational value in the programming for children, as well as the overwhelming role of advertising in the development of such content. In response, the U.S. Department of Education partnered with the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and PBS to create the Ready to Learn initiative, sparking the development of more educational programming for preschool children in the vein of Sesame Street or Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. In 1994, PBS launched a program block explicitly designed for children, named PTV. This was essentially a repackaging of the children's programming that was already housed in the network, with the addition of animated educational bumpers from the new P-Pals in between programs. PTV lasted from 1994 until 1999, when the network would launch a new brand for its children's programming. In October of 1999, the Public Broadcasting Service would launch PBS Kids, sporting a new logo and creating a more unified connection between all of the children's programming that was aired during the time block. PBS also launched a new website to coincide with the new branding. At the same time, PBS, in partnership with DirecTV, created an additional network channel of the same name that aired PBS Kids programming to DirecTV satellite customers, while the same programs aired for the Public Broadcasting Service during the day. In 2004, the PBS Kids Go branding was established to appeal to older children between the ages of 6 and 13. The Public Broadcasting Service maintained the PBS Kids branding for its preschool programming at the same time. In 2005, the PBS Kids satellite channel on DirecTV ended, having ran for a total of 6 years. It was later replaced by PBS Kids Sprout, a new venture developed by PBS in partnership with Sesame Workshop, Hit Entertainment, and Comcast. This network focused exclusively on preschool programming. The channel was eventually bought out by Comcast and NBC Universal in 2013. The channel has since been rebranded to Universal Kids and features a wide variety of content for children, including material from DreamWorks, Netflix, and spin-offs of NBC game shows that were redesigned to appeal to younger audiences. In 2013, PBS initiated a massive overhaul of their children's programming branding. The network dropped the PBS Kids Go branding completely, and all of the existing bumper animation and branding was given a fresh new look to coincide with the premiere of a new series entitled Peg Plus Cat. Rather than separating programming by age range, the network aimed to create programming that would appeal to wider age groups, such as Wild Kratts and Curious George. The 2013 rebranding continues to be in use to this day. In 2016, PBS Kids partnered with Amazon Prime Video, consolidating most of the PBS Kids programming on streaming services from multiple different platforms such as Netflix and Hulu, all onto Amazon Prime Video. Some of the PBS Kids material on Amazon Prime Video is included with a Prime subscription, while other content is available for purchase or accessible through a subscription to the Amazon Prime PBS Kids channel, which costs about $5 a month. In 2017, PBS made a huge leap in increasing the accessibility of children's educational programming. Much like they had previously attempted with DirecTV in the early 2000s, PBS planned to launch a new 24/7 PBS Kids channel through partnerships with its local PBS stations. Along with the new channel, the network would also launch an internet-based live stream of this 24/7 channel for absolutely free, making the quality educational content available on the network even more accessible than ever before. This live stream would be made available both online through the PBS Kids website, as well as through the new PBS Kids video app, which would also feature select on-demand streaming of certain episodes of all of the network's programs. The channel, live stream, and app were all launched in January of 2017 to great success. And that brings us to the end of part 1. The level of accessibility that was established with the creation of the 24/7 channel and the live stream is incredible to me. When television was first developed nearly a century ago, no one could have ever expected the innovations that we have today. Even when Joan Cooney and the rest of Children's Television Workshop first conceived the idea for Sesame Street nearly 50 years ago, no one could predict the phenomenon that it is now. The development of the free 24/7 channel, live stream, and video app, I feel, is an extension of Joan Cooney's mission to bring quality, educational programming to as many children as possible. I hope that one day I can use my own skills as a music teacher to carry on the same mission of providing quality educational opportunities to children in need. And speaking of music, let's go ahead and jump into part 2 and examine how music can be used as a tool in the educational process. As we transition into the second portion of this video essay, it's worth considering. What exactly is music, and why is music so important? According to Merriam-Webster, music can be defined as sounds that are sung by voices or played on musical instruments. The dictionary goes on to offer a bit more descriptive definition, which states, the science or art of ordering tones or sounds in succession, in combination, and in temporal relationships to produce a composition having unity and continuity. And while these definitions are technically accurate, as a person who has studied music for several years, I feel that these definitions are a bit lacking. These definitions fail to truly express the tremendous impact that music can have on people. Music is everywhere, and because of its pertinence all across the world, it plays a huge role in creating and developing identity. Music is unique in that it offers an inherent sense of self and collective. Music constructs this unique sense of identity in both of these realms by shaping the ways in which an individual can perceive time, emotion, social constructs, and other crucial activities that allow them to place themselves as a part of a larger cultural entity. Sociologically, music is a crucial element of all culture, all across the world. In every observed society across time, music is present. Music can shape the fashion and popular culture trends of a society, with iconic looks from popular music artists forever ingrained in the public consciousness. Likewise, music can serve as a time capsule, immortalizing trends from the past and history. Music is often used as a means of voicing political opinions, as evidenced by protest music of the 1960s by artists such as Bob Dylan and Neil Young. This kind of music can spark tremendous social change and progress within a society's laws or collective morals. Different people and societies can develop their own unique sound, utilizing regional instruments, genres, and rhythms to create something that is distinct from everything else in the rest of the world. However, while music can still be very distinct to specific groups or regions, music can also transcend boundaries, even serving as a universal language. A recent Harvard study found that certain kinds of music are universally associated with certain behaviors, such as infant care, healing, dance, love, mourning, warfare, processions, and rituals. Music that has similar behavioral intentions often have similar features or characteristics, allowing for the purpose and message of the music to transcend language or distance barriers. Beyond establishing individual or cultural identity, music also has the capacity to dramatically impact the human emotional experience. People can utilize music to alter their mood. Listening to pleasurable music causes a release of dopamine in the brain, which makes people feel happy. Therefore, if a person wants to perhaps alter their mood from a less desirable one to something more enjoyable, listening to music can help them to achieve that goal. Music gives performers a chance to express deep emotions in a way that is universally understood, and listeners can relate to and connect with the music that they hear. People can gain a better understanding of their own thoughts and feelings by experiencing music. Because of music's effect on the brain, engaging in music, either as a listener or a performer, can benefit academic performance and brain function. Participation in music utilizes both hemispheres of the brain. In young children, this helps to stimulate brain development, particularly when it comes to developing long-term communication, listening, and comprehension skills. In general, someone who studies music utilizes a wide variety of skill sets, including reading, oral, and kinesthetic skills, as students read music on the page, listen to other players around them, and physically manipulate an instrument or their own voice to achieve a desired sound. Students develop spatial intelligence as they study music, which allow them to be able to better visualize how different elements come together in different contexts, a skill that is particularly beneficial to math education. A 2007 study conducted by Christopher Johnson also concluded that students who participated in superior elementary school music programs scored more than 20% higher on English and mathematics standardized tests than their peers who did not participate in such programs. Related to our discussion of the emotional component of music, research has also shown that the study of music can also develop and reinforce important social-emotional skills in academic contexts. Children who study music have demonstrated higher levels of intrinsic motivation. Participation in music can also help develop key critical thinking skills. Children who participate in instrumental music lessons from younger ages also mature faster than their non-musical peers, both emotionally and behaviorally. Activities that involve music are frequently successful with young children because such activities allow them to explore various concepts with both an artistic and a scientific eye. Through these activities, young students can connect their emotional mind with their rational mind. As a child grows older, these two parts of the brain work together in harmony to create a student's worldviews, their perceptions, and their overall life experiences. Engaging with music gives children the opportunity to learn more about themselves and the world around them in a safe, non-judgmental way. This connection to social-emotional learning and self-understanding is crucial for many students. For many people, music is not simply an optional pastime. For them, music is a lifeline, giving them the ability to experience and engage with the world in meaningful, impactful ways. One of the most fascinating things about music is how it connects to memory. Music is such a core element of our being. As we experience music in our everyday lives, the music revives memories within us, memories of who we are, where we're from, and who we aspire to be. In patients with Alzheimer's disease, dementia, and other cognitive deterioration disorders, music has proven effective in reviving lost memories that are associated with familiar songs or pieces. In some studies, Alzheimer's patients who had previously seemed unable to speak were able to dance and sing along with music, and some patients were even able to recount personal anecdotes that were related to their experiences with the music they were listening to. This connection between music and memory can also be applied to an academic context. In school environments, songs are frequently utilized as memory tools. When students are first introduced to fundamental learning concepts, such as the alphabet, they are often taught songs to help them remember that concept. Even children who are very, very young can successfully connect with a melody, and this can make it easier for them to learn the concepts that are contained within that melody. In many cases, familiar melodies are adapted to help teach certain concepts. For example, the alphabet song is based on the melody of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, and many students also learn the months of the year to the melody of the Macarena. This is true also even just beyond basic fundamentals. For example, in the popular cartoon Animaniacs, one of the most iconic scenes of the show's history involves the character of Wacko naming all 50 US states and their capitals in a song sung to the tune of Turkey in Straw. This song helped many young students master American geography and remember the names of all of the states and their respective capitals. In the Disney Channel show Hannah Montana, protagonist Miley Stewart created a song parodying her hip-hop song Nobody's Perfect to remember the different bones in the human body in order to help her study for a biology midterm. Original music can also be useful in getting educational messages across. Sesame Street was a pioneer in creating unique songs to tell stories or teach different concepts on children's television. And since Sesame Street's inception, many others have followed suit. One example is Disney's Schoolhouse Rock, which used original music to teach about various concepts across multiple academic subjects, with popular songs including I'm Just a Bill to describe the process of how bills become laws, and Conjunction Junction to teach about the part of speech and its use. However, the use of original music as an educational tool is especially pertinent on the programming of PBS Kids. In the next section of this video, I will explore the current programming lineup of the PBS Kids channel, as well as how all of these different shows incorporate music into their curriculum.
Don't you love the beautiful sound of these lute strings?
Yeah!
Before I dive into the analysis of current PBS Kids programming, it's important for me to define what I actually qualified as music for the analysis. Every single one of these programs utilize music in some capacity to either demonstrate emotion or somehow set the tone of their narrative. For the sake of this analysis, I considered only the programs that utilized lyrical songs in their episodes. These songs are almost always sung by characters in the show, either to demonstrate a certain segment of the show, forward the plot narratively, or educate the viewers in the audience. I chose to focus on these songs because they represent the most direct method of utilizing music as an educational tool. According to the PBS Kids website, the network currently boasts 28 half-hour children's programs. In alphabetical order, they are Alma's Way, Arthur, The Cat in the Hat Knows a Lot About That, Clifford the Big Red Dog 2019, Curious George, Cyber Chase, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, Design Squad Nation, Dinosaur Train, Don Quixote, Eleanor Wonders Why, Hero Elementary, Let's Go Luna, Martha Speaks, Molly of Denali, Nature Cat, Odd Squad, Peg Plus Cat, Pinkalicious and Peterific, Ready Jet Go, Psy Girls, Sesame Street, Sid the Science Kid, Splash and Bubbles, Super Y, Wildcrats, Word Girl, and Xavier Riddle and the Secret Museum. After having watched several episodes from each of these shows, I identified 3 primary ways that PBS Kids programming utilizes music. They are 1. To serve as some kind of a cue or establish a routine. 2. To support the show narratively, either by summarizing something that just happened or by explaining something that is currently happening as it relates to the overall plot of the episode. Or 3. Educationally, in order to directly teach some kind of a concept. Often, some of these 3 methods will overlap, particularly narrative and educational uses of song, and that's primarily due to the overall format that many of these programs utilize. Out of the 28 programs that I listed, I identified 14 shows that utilize music in at least one of the aforementioned 3 ways. Now, this list does not include any of the hour-long television movies or any typical half-hour show that uncharacteristically features music, such as the special Arthur episode entitled Arthur's Almost Live, Not Real Music, in which the episode is comprised of nothing but music as Arthur and his friends make music videos since this wouldn't be really representative of the show's typical incorporation of music into its curriculum. In order to share my findings, I'm going to talk about each of these 14 series, providing some context and history about each, while also providing examples of how the shows incorporate music into their programming. I'm going to talk about each of these shows in alphabetical order, starting with The Cat in the Hat Knows a Lot About That. The Cat in the Hat Knows a Lot About That is an animated show set in the colorful world of Dr. Seuss. Starring the titular Cat in the Hat, voiced by Martin Short, the show aims to teach natural science concepts to its target audience of preschool children. The show first premiered on PBS Kids in September of 2010. A total of 80 episodes over 3 seasons have been produced, with the final episode airing in October of 2018. PBS Kids continues to air reruns of the show on its network and on the PBS Kids video app. Many of the regular episodes of the show are also available on demand on the Amazon Prime Video app, including most of the hour-long specials and television movies. The show is based on the Cat in the Hat Learning Library, a series of books where the Cat in the Hat explores various science concepts utilizing the typical Dr. Seuss narrative rhyming scheme. A typical episode of The Cat in the Hat Knows a Lot About That consists of the 2 main child protagonists, Sally, the 6-year-old girl from the original Cat in the Hat book, and her neighbor and best friend, 6-year-old Nick, engaging in some kind of activity, such as setting up a tent, playing dress-up, or playing soccer, when something occurs that causes one of them to ask a science-related question. At this point in time, the Cat in the Hat typically appears, offering to take the children to a certain location or to meet a particular person that can help them answer their question and/or solve the problem. Each episode consists of 2 of these segments, each lasting about 11 minutes apiece. The Cat in the Hat Knows a Lot About That primarily uses music to cue or indicate a transition from one segment to another. After the kids ask permission from a parent to go with the Cat in the Hat, they all board the Thingamajigger, the cat's nonsensical flying vehicle. In typical Seuss fashion, the Thingamajigger has all sorts of unique functions, from flying to diving to shrinking in size. As the kids set off with the Cat in the Hat on their journey to find an answer to their question, the song Here We Go, 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 Go plays. The song is very brief, lasting for less than a minute, but it does serve as an indication that Sally, Nick, and the Cat in the Hat, as well as the viewers, are leaving the quote-unquote normal world and traveling into a zanier environment that is more typical of the Dr. Seuss universe. While the show primarily utilizes music as a means of establishing a cue to the audience, the show will also occasionally utilize music as a means of expressing an educational or narrative concept. Now, this does not occur in every episode, but it is present in quite a few. Similar to Here We Go, 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 when these songs do occur, they are generally quite short, typically under a minute. Most of these songs are used to further elaborate on a specific educational concept, while simultaneously moving the plot of the episodes along or recapping an important plot point. One example of this is in the episode Along Came a Spider, where the Cat in the Hat sings a song in the style of a swing dance, which teaches Sally and Nick how to make a spider's web. The kids later apply what they learned in the song to patch up a hole in their soccer net. The show is rated a 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, and it has won a number of awards for daytime television, including Parents' Choice Awards and even some daytime Emmy nominations. Clifford the Big Red Dog 2019. Clifford the Big Red Dog 2019 is a reboot of the original Clifford the Big Red Dog series that aired on PBS Kids from 2000 to 2003. The original series continued to air reruns for many years after its initial release, and original episodes of the show are occasionally shown alongside the newer version of the series as the older cartoon gets phased out. For the purposes of this review, I will be focusing exclusively on Clifford 2019, as almost all of the PBS Kids branding for the show has adopted this newer version, and the presence of the original cartoon is becoming less noticeable. Clifford 2019 is still producing new episodes to this day, and it's currently in its 3rd season. The show is available to watch on the PBS Kids video app, as well as on the Amazon Prime video app. Both the original television series and the reboot are based on the children's book series by Norman Bridwell. The series focuses on Emily Elizabeth and her enormous red dog, Clifford, as they navigate through daily life challenges on their home of Birdwell Island. The show aims to teach about interpersonal relationships, problem solving, and socio-emotional learning concepts to its preschool audience. The show also follows the popular 2 11-minute segment format, with each segment presenting a problem in either Emily Elizabeth or Clifford's life. With the help of their friends, they learn new ways to solve their problems or build stronger relationships. Clifford 2019 primarily uses music narratively to describe what is happening in the plot of the episode. For example, in the episode entitled March of the Sea Turtles, Emily Elizabeth, Clifford, and their friends on Birdwell Island sing a song to the tune of Johnny Comes Marching Home as they explain what the baby sea turtles that they are trying to guide to the ocean are doing. In this episode, the song is sung multiple times, with a few variations to the lyrics each time as a new development occurs with the sea turtles. However, in most episodes, there is typically only one very brief song that is used to explain what is happening or to summarize something that had just occurred. On occasion, some of these songs can also be interpreted as educational, such as in the episode entitled Samantha's Perfect Day, in which two of Emily Elizabeth's friends sing a song entitled I Love the Ocean. While the song is rather generic and is included in the episode primarily as a narrative device, the song does describe various sea creatures that live in the ocean and the overall ocean environment. The show has a rating of 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb, and upon release, it faced mixed reviews. At this time, the show has one accolade to its name, a 2021 nomination for a GLAAD Media Award for Outstanding Children's Programming. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is the first spin-off series from the original Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood programs that aired nationally in 1968 and in 1979. This show takes place in the land of make-believe, a fantastical world that had been established in the original Mr. Rogers shows. This series focuses on 4-year-old Daniel Tiger, the son of the original Daniel Striped Tiger puppet that was frequently seen in Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Young Daniel Tiger and his friends, who are also the children of many of the original inhabitants of the land of make-believe, explore their community and navigate daily life. The show first aired in 2012 and is currently in its 5th season, with new episodes still in production. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood aims to continue the mission of Fred Rogers by teaching various concepts related to socio-emotional learning and expressing oneself to its primary audience of preschool children. This show was actually the program that ultimately inspired me to do this project. I had never grown up with the show, as it didn't premiere until I was nearly in high school. However, during the 2020 pandemic, I finally got the chance to watch the show for the first time, and I was thoroughly impressed by how true it was to the original vision of Fred Rogers. I was also fascinated by the ways in which the show incorporated music into each and every episode. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood occasionally uses music narratively. Each segment features a portion where Daniel invites the audience to make believe with me, a fantasy sequence in which Daniel Tiger imagines himself in a unique situation relevant to the context of the narrative. For example, if Daniel visits the hospital, he makes believe that he is a doctor, and his favorite stuffed toy is a nurse, who are all helping out other people to feel better. During the make-believe sequence, Daniel sings a song describing what he is experiencing or feeling. However, Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood primarily uses its music as an educational tool to support the socio-emotional objective of the episode. Almost every episode features 2 11-minute segments that each teach about a similar theme. Every episode features an original song to help teach a certain objective. These songs are referred to as strategy songs by the writers of the show, since these songs are meant to provide its audience with strategies on handling new or challenging situations. An abbreviated version of the episode strategy song is used within each show segment. This abbreviated version only lasts for a few seconds and focuses on the main idea of the strategy. This is often sung multiple times in each segment. In between the 2 segments of the episode, the full version of the song is played. The full version of the song provides a more in-depth explanation of the strategy, including examples of context where the strategy may be helpful if it is applied. The full version of the song is played alongside a 2-dimensional flash animated segment that is designed to serve as a visual representation to accompany the auditory explanation provided by the song. The different animation style utilized during the song segment helps to separate the song from the longer narrative segments. Every episode of Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood is thoroughly researched during the development process and written in such a way as to maintain a child's attention while encouraging interaction with lessons being taught in the show. The writers incorporate socio-emotional curriculum directly from Fred Rogers in his work on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Studies have shown that the program is effective in helping young children develop their social and emotional skills. Children who watched the show frequently and had active conversations with their grown-ups about the show demonstrated higher levels of empathy, social confidence, and emotion recognition. Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood has been received quite well by audiences and critics alike. The show has a rating of 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb, and it has been nominated for many, many different awards, including several Television Critics Association awards and Daytime Emmy Awards. In 2019, the program won a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Preschool Children's Animated Series. The show has also consistently won awards from the Society of Composers, Authors, and Music Publishers of Canada, or SOCAN, for domestic TV series, music, and an animated series every year since 2016. Don Quixote. Don Quixote is a relatively new program to PBS Kids. The program first aired earlier this year, in May of 2021. Much like Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, Don Quixote is also based on the universe established by Fred Rogers. Don Quixote aims to reach a similar audience to Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood, specifically preschool children ages 3 to 5. While Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood takes place in the neighborhood of make-believe, Don Quixote takes place in the land of someplace else, located just north of the neighborhood of make-believe. Unlike most of the other shows on this list, Don Quixote is performed with live-action puppets, rather than utilizing 3D or 2D animation styles, which makes it fairly unique. The show is similar to Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood in that it also places a great deal of emphasis on social and emotional learning standards. Resilience is a strong theme throughout the show, demonstrating to the young audience that they can overcome any challenges that life throws their way. The show works to model problem-solving techniques and goal setting to help children determine and achieve their own goals and ambitions. A typical episode of Don Quixote is divided into two 11-minute segments, each focusing on some sort of challenge that would be relevant to young viewers, such as how to overcome a bad day or figuring out when to ask for help. The show incorporates music in each of these segments, both narratively and educationally. Each episode segment contains a unique song meant to demonstrate the lesson being portrayed in the episode. These songs typically serve a dual purpose of being both educational and narrative. These songs are normally sung within the narrative as an explanation of how to solve a problem being experienced by Don Quixote or one of her friends. These songs both introduce a solution that could be utilized by children watching the show when they experience similar challenges, demonstrating the educational value of the song, while also helping to move the story along by relating the lesson to the context of the episode, therefore demonstrating the narrative value of these songs. The show is still relatively new and has received mixed reviews. It currently has a rating of 5.8 out of 10 on IMDb, with most of the reviews split between ratings of 1 out of 10 and 10 out of 10. With only 13 episodes currently in circulation, the show has been nominated for one award, the 2021 Television Critics Association Award for Outstanding Achievement in Youth Programming. Eleanor Wonders Why. Eleanor Wonders Why is another recent addition to the PBS Kids programming lineup. The show first premiered in September of 2020 and centers around a young rabbit named Eleanor and her friends as they ask questions about the world around them and work together to find the answers. The show is aimed at 3 to 5-year-olds, and it mainly focuses on teaching young kids about science, nature, and community. Eleanor Wonders Why also follows a typical 2 11-minute segments per episode format. In each segment, the children all work to solve a unique problem connected to a specific natural, physical, or social science concept. Each segment contains a short song as well. Eleanor Wonders Why uses music primarily as both a narrative and educational tool. The songs typically summarize what the children have learned about the concept they were exploring, while also serving as a narrative tool to further advance the story within the context of the episode. The show is still in its first season, and it continues to produce new episodes. The show has received generally positive reviews, earning an 8.3 out of 10 on IMDb. At this time, the show has been nominated for 2 awards, one of which was for a Daytime Emmy Award for Outstanding Preschool Children's Animated Series. Let's Go Luna. I found Let's Go Luna to be one of the most interesting shows I watched for this project. The show first aired on PBS Kids in 2018 and was created by Joe Murray, who is most well known for creating Nickelodeon's hit show Rocko's Modern Life, which aired in the late 1990s. Let's Go Luna focuses on the adventures of 3 anthropomorphic animal children as they travel across the world with their parents, who work for a traveling circus. The children are Leo, a wombat and chef from Australia, Andy, a frog and aspiring artist from the United States, and Carmen, a music-loving butterfly from Mexico. As the children visit new places across the globe, they meet new people and learn about different cultural elements, such as food, music, art, entertainment, style, architecture, and recreation native to whatever place they are visiting. The show is aimed at children ages 4 through 7 and targets topics like geography, history, anthropology, ecology, and sociology. Like most of the shows on the network, Let's Go Luna follows the two 11-minute segments per episode format. Each segment within a half-hour show takes place in the same location, but each segment explores a different element of the culture of that location. In between the two segments, one of the three children will tell a folktale or a story from the location they are visiting. There are two half-hour-long episodes dedicated to each location, or 4 separate 11-minute segments. Let's Go Luna uses music in a couple of ways. The first way the show utilizes music is to indicate a cue, in this case, the arrival of Luna the Moon. In each segment, when the children first encounter Luna, they sing a short theme song to introduce the character. This serves as a notable cue to the audience that the episode has transitioned from its introduction of the setting and environment into the more educational phase of the episode, since the children typically learn about the world around them through their interactions with Luna. Most notably, however, is how the show utilizes music within the context of the specific episode segment. The music outside of Luna's theme song in each episode serves as a dual purpose. Each segment features a unique song written in the traditional or popular style of the episode's location. These songs are typically both narrative and educational in nature. The songs are narrative in the fact that they advance the plot of the episode forward. These songs are also educational, however, explaining a particular element of the region's culture or history. Learning about the history or culture of the environment is often crucial to solving the narrative's problem, which allows for the educational elements of the song to directly fit in with the plot of the episode. For example, in the episode More Than All That Jazz, the kids visit New Orleans, Louisiana. Carmen is struggling with playing jazz music until, for the main song of the episode, she learns about jazz improvisation. The song is educational in that it teaches about different elements of jazz history and performance, but also narrative in that it helps Carmen to effectively overcome her dilemma. Much like the audience of the show, Carmen and the other characters directly interact with the song, making these songs crucial to their character arc and an important element of the plot of each episode. The show is currently in its second season. It has generally been received positively, with a rating of a 7.3 out of 10 on IMDb. The show has also been nominated for a handful of awards, including 2 Daytime Emmy Awards and an Annie Award. Nature Cat. Nature Cat first aired on PBS Kids in November of 2015. The show stars Fred the House Cat, also known as Nature Cat, and his friends, Hal, Daisy, and Squeaks, as they go on adventures and explore the natural world. The show is targeted towards children between the ages of 3 and 8. The show aims to teach children about various concepts related to natural science, health, and environmental conservation. A typical half-hour episode of Nature Cat is divided into 2 11-minute segments. In between the 2 segments, there is a brief animated music video. Nature Cat is unique in that it does not contain music within the plot-based segments of the show, but it still features music in the buffer space between these 2 11-minute segments. These songs are presented as snippets from a concert performed by Nature Cat and his friends' favorite band, Doggone. Some of these songs are reused in multiple episodes, and 13 of these songs were compiled in an album for the show, entitled The Green Album, which was released in 2018. These songs are fairly brief, typically lasting for less than a minute and a half apiece. These songs focus on topics such as the water cycle, rocks, and carnivorous plants. The implementation of music in this way can be interpreted as both establishing a routine and educational. The songs establish a routine in that they indicate the break between one episode segment and the next. The songs are educational in that they explain various elements of science and how they operate in the natural world. The song That's the Water Cycle, for instance, explains the steps of the water cycle, while the song Rocks Rock tell about the different rock types and how fossils are formed. Nature Cat wrapped up Season 3 in summer of 2021, and the show has been renewed for a 4th and 5th season to begin airing later in 2022. The show has been received largely positively. It currently holds a rating of 7.2 out of 10 on IMDb. The show has also been nominated for 4 Daytime Emmy Awards and 1 Television Critics Association Award. Peg plus Cat. Peg Plus Cat evolved out of a children's picture book entitled The Chicken Problem, which was written by Billy Aronson and Jennifer Oxley and released in 2012. The main characters introduced in the book, Peg and Cat, would go on to serve as the stars of an animated television show entitled Peg Plus Cat, which would air on PBS Kids in October of 2013. Aronson and Oxley maintained creative direction over their property from page to screen, working in partnership with Fred Rogers Productions and 9 Story Media Group to bring the characters to life. The duo had found past success in bringing children's media to life with television credits such as Nick Jr.'s Little Bill and Wonder Pets. The show is designed to teach simple math concepts to an audience of 3 to 5-year-olds. The show follows the split segment format, with each segment lasting approximately 11 or 12 minutes. In each segment, Peg and Cat encounter a, quote, big problem, which ultimately turns into a really big problem as the episode progresses. These problems range from collecting 100 chickens who got loose from the chicken coop to stopping a shape-loving crime duo from wreaking havoc on the city. The world of Peg Plus Cat is oddly absurd, featuring various elements of history, science, and fantasy. Recurring characters in the show include Ludwig van Beethoven, Marie Curie, Cleopatra, a purple space alien named Richard, and an operatic pig. While these elements may seem outlandish, Peg Plus Cat creatively ties together unique situations, environments, and characters to create a fun and exciting environment for young children to learn about fundamental math concepts. Peg Plus Cat is extremely unique in how it utilizes music within the show. There are a couple of songs that reoccur in each episode. The main recurring song is entitled The Problem is Solved. This song is usually sung near the conclusion of each episode segment, once Peg and Cat have successfully been able to master a certain math concept that helped them overcome their really big problem. In a handful of episode segments, the song is sung a couple of times. If it is sang more than once in an episode, it typically appears fairly early on in the episode, serving as a sort of fake-out, in which Peg or Cat believes that the main conflict is already resolved, before realizing that they actually still have a really big problem on their hands. There is one other main routine establishing use of music in the show, and this takes place in between the two 11-minute episode segments. In between these two segments, there is a brief short in which Peg and Cat explore a math concept related to at least one of the two episode segments. This short takes place with Peg and Cat playing around with different bath toys during Peg's bath time, and it is introduced by the brief song, Splashing in the Bathroom. However, what makes the incorporation of music unique in Peg Plus Cat is the ways in which the show incorporate music educationally and narratively. Much like of its overall world building, the utilization of music in Peg Plus Cat is extremely creative. The ways in which music is used in the show vary tremendously by episode, with some episode segments containing very little music, while others are almost exclusively delivered via song. Some songs are exclusively narrative, such as in the episode The Chicken Problem, which is the very first episode of the series and is directly based on the original picture book that evolved into the television series. At one point in the episode, Peg sings a song about gathering up the 100 chickens that got loose from the coop. The song contains no educational elements, and the lyrics simply explain that Peg is just trying to catch the loose chickens before the farmer realizes they're gone. However, there are also songs that serve exclusively educational purposes. In that very same episode, Peg and her friends sing a song towards the end of the episode which summarizes what they learned about comparing and matching relative sizes. This song does not advance the plot of the episode in any way, but rather serves as a summary of the main math concept of the episode segment. However, there are some instances where the songs in Peg Plus Cat serve both a narrative and educational purpose. In the episode The Space Creature Problem, Peg's friend Ramon sings a song about counting by tens. In this context, the song is both narrative and educational, since it explicitly explained how to count by tens to reach 100, while also relating to what the characters were doing in the episode, which was counting by tens to gather space rocks and missing chickens. It is also important to note that the way that the show will often have characters sing their dialogue, such as in the episode The Flat Woman Problem, often reinforces the way in which the show will use songs to advance narrative and educational concepts. In this way, characters will sing in order to narrate their own thoughts or actions, or their singing will somehow further reinforce the main math concept being presented in the episode. Since its release in 2013, Peg Plus Cat aired a total of 63 episodes over 2 seasons, before shutting down production in 2018. During its run, the show received positive reviews, earning a 7.8 out of 10 on IMDb. The series has also won several Daytime Emmy Awards and Daytime Creative Arts Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Writing in a Preschool Animated Program and Outstanding Music Direction and Composition in 2016. The show continues to air in reruns on PBS Kids, and episodes are still available for streaming on the PBS Kids Video app and the Amazon Prime Video app. Pinkalicious and Peterrific. Pinkalicious and Peterrific is based off of the Pinkalicious children's book series written by Victoria Kahn. The first Pinkalicious book was released in 2006, and since then, the franchise has evolved to include 63 book titles, the animated series on PBS Kids, and even an off-Broadway musical. Rather than focus on more traditional academic objectives like most of the other shows in the PBS Kids lineup, Pinkalicious and Peterrific targets social and emotional learning standards, placing an emphasis on concepts such as independent creativity, imagination, collaboration, problem-solving, relationship building, and community engagement. The show also explores concepts related to music, the visual arts, theater, and drama. The show is designed for a target audience of 3 to 8-year-olds. Pinkalicious and Peterrific also utilizes the 2 11-minute segment design for a standard half-hour program. Each segment focuses on the daily life and adventures of Pinkalicious, a young girl who is especially fond of the color pink, and her younger brother Peter. While the environment of the show is largely rooted in realism, Pinkalicious's vivid imagination opens up incredible possibilities in the world around her, giving her and her friends the opportunity to befriend unicorns, fairies, garden gnomes, and other magical beings. Music is used a bit inconsistently in Pinkalicious and Peterrific. Not every 11-minute segment will feature a song, but there will be at least one original song in every overarching 30-minute episode. These songs are primarily used narratively as a means to demonstrate what Pinkalicious is doing or to reveal her thoughts and desires. For example, in the episode entitled Puptastic, Pinkalicious and Peter sing a song called Woof, I'm a Dog, as they play with their neighbor's dog, Pinky. The song largely describes what Pinkalicious and Peter are doing as they play with Pinky. However, these songs can also be considered educational, as they encourage children to engage in imaginative play, just like Pinkalicious and Peter. Pinkalicious and Peterrific is currently in its 3rd season on PBS Kids. The show has received somewhat polarizing reviews on IMDb, with an overall rating of 5.4 out of 10. The chief complaint about the show is that many people find the main characters, particularly Pinkalicious, a bit obnoxious, making the show challenging to watch. Others praise the show for embracing the arts and social-emotional learning concepts, believing that the show is unique and unabashedly embracing Pinkalicious's affinity for all things pink and sparkly and encouraging audience members to engage in imaginative play. To date, the show has received a Synopsis Media Award for Best New Preschool Show in 2018. Ready, Jet, Go! Ready, Jet, Go is a show about a young alien boy named Jet Propulsion from the planet Vortron 7. Jet and his family visit Earth to gather research about the planet for an intergalactic travel guide. Meanwhile, Jet befriends the neighborhood children, educating them about space. Jet and his friends often travel into space to explore various astronomical concepts in the family's car, which can also turn into a flying saucer. The show is aimed at children between the ages of 3 and 8 years old, and it is intended to serve as preschool children's first introduction to space and the use of the scientific method. Ready, Jet, Go utilizes the typical pair of 11-minute segments per half-hour episode format. The show boasts a catalog of about 50 songs. The use of music in each episode is relatively inconsistent, with some episode segments including many different songs, while others have no songs at all. There is one song that appears in most episodes, referred to as the Takeoff Ditty. This song plays in every episode where the Propulsion family launches their flying saucer into space and establishes a cue to the audience of the dramatic change in setting. Some songs, such as My Name is Mindy, are used narratively to describe the plot or explore a character's motivations. Many of the songs are mainly educational in nature, such as the Scientific Method song, which explains the full steps of the scientific method. Ready, Jet, Go was a relatively short-lived program on PBS Kids. The show first aired in February of 2016. The show lasted for 2 seasons, producing a total of 70 half-hour episodes before ending in May of 2019. The show continues to air in reruns on PBS Kids. The show received mediocre reviews during its run, earning a 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. The series was nominated for 2 Young Entertainer Awards, recognizing the show's voice acting talent. Ready Jet Go is available for streaming on the PBS Kids video app and on Amazon Prime Video. Sesame Street. Sesame Street. Arguably the show that really started the children's educational television movement. Now, we have already discussed the huge influence of Sesame Street on educational television and children's programming at great length, so I will keep this description brief. When the show first premiered in 1969, the show lasted for a full hour. However, after Sesame Street was bought by HBO in 2015, the show experienced a bit of an overhaul. The show still contains a great deal of educational material reminiscent of earlier seasons, often reusing many of the classic segments and material from those earlier episodes, but the show was ultimately shortened to fit the more standard half-hour format of other PBS Kids shows. The series also premiered a new set and a new human cast. Additional Muppets have been added to the cast since the acquisition as well. These Muppets include Julia, a Muppet with autism, Ji-Young, a Korean-American Muppet, and black father-son duo Wes and Elijah. The inclusion of a more diverse cast in recent years and the representation of so many different people, both human and felt, has helped Sesame Street to further spread its message of inclusion, acceptance, love, and community. Ever since the show's conception, music has been an integral part of Sesame Street. With decades of experience under its belt, the program has an impressive musical repertoire with more than 2,700 songs written for the show since 1969. To analyze the full catalog of Sesame Street songs would be impossible to achieve in this video. Even today, every episode is packed with songs, some of them familiar, while others are completely brand new. The music of the show has evolved tremendously over the years, and much of it still holds a special place in so many of our hearts, even years later. Joe Raposo, the show's very first musical director, along with many successors, are to thank for the show's iconic, memorable, and heartfelt music. It is also worth noting the number of celebrities who have appeared on the show during its run, including many musical artists who have performed in the show. Some of the most memorable performances on Sesame Street were by Johnny Cash, Billy Joel, Stevie Wonder, and Destiny's Child. Some of the songs in the show are utilized to establish routines. Sesame Street has many different recurring segments on the show, although not all of these are included in every single episode. Each episode features a letter of the day and a number of the day, staying true to the show's early roots of teaching preschoolers early literacy and math fundamentals. For each of these segments, since the 2015 HBO update, there are 2 different songs that are utilized to introduce the letter of the day, and 2 different songs that are utilized to introduce the number of the day. One of each of these songs will appear in every single episode. Other recurring segments in the show that do not necessarily occur in every episode include Abby's Amazing Adventures, which showcases Abby Cadabby and her little brother Rudy trying out different occupations, Elmo's World, which utilizes both new material and material from the show pre-2015, Cookie Monster's Foodie Truck, which features Cookie Monster and Gonger creating different foods out of a shaded food truck, and Big Bird's Road Trip, which features Big Bird traveling around the country, interviewing children in different cities or receiving video calls from children across the United States. All of these recurring segments have their own short theme song associated with them, and these short theme songs help to establish a routine and help the audience understand what is currently going on in the show. In other instances throughout the show, the music is utilized narratively. These narrative songs are frequently sung by characters to describe what they are doing and incorporate an important lesson learned by the characters. These songs can also frequently be educational in that they reiterate or further explain a particular concept. This is especially true for songs that focus on interpersonal skills. For example, at the start of episode 5021, The Fluster Kerfuffle, Elmo, Abby Cadabby, Big Bird, Rudy, and Julia are outside enjoying the warm weather with their human friend, Alan. When Rudy accidentally takes Julia's special toy Fluffster away, she is deeply upset. Alan explains to Broody why Fluster is so important to Julia and that no one should feel forced into sharing a special toy if they don't want to. Alan and the kids sing a song about their special toys and how much they each mean to them. The song is narrative in that it further advances the plot, ultimately resulting in all of the kids, including Julia, playing together with their toys in a way that makes everyone feel comfortable, but it is also educational in that it teaches concepts related to interpersonal connections and social-emotional learning, such as problem-solving, listening, tolerance, and self-advocacy. There are also other songs that appear in the show that are almost exclusively educational. These songs typically fixate on exploring one particular concept, such as the number 2, different winter holidays, or even the concept of friendship. The frequency and content of these songs vary tremendously by episode. There is no denying the huge impact of Sesame Street on children's educational television and popular culture as a whole. The show has been going strong for over 50 years, and the show continues to be received positively, earning an 8.1 out of 10 on IMDb. The show has even been adapted internationally, with variations of the show appearing in more than 100 countries internationally in a wide variety of languages. The show has won more than 180 Daytime Emmy Awards. The show's music has also been widely praised, and the show has won 11 Grammy Awards throughout its run so far. The show is currently in its 52nd season. New episodes of the show are airing on PBS Kids and through HBO. Episodes can be streamed on demand via the PBS Kids video app or through HBO Max. Sid the Science Kid. Sid the Science Kid is perhaps the most structured program in the PBS Kids lineup. The show first premiered in September of 2008, and it continued airing new episodes until its cancellation in 2013. However, the series still airs reruns on the network to this day. Rather than following the more typical 2-segment format of many of the other shows on this list, each half-hour episode of Sid the Science Kid has one cohesive storyline. However, within that storyline, the show has 12 segments that occur in every single episode. These segments are Breakfast Time, Looking for My Friends, What's the Big Idea, The Sid Survey, Rug Time, Super Fab Lab, Good Afternoon, Playtime, Let's Play Pretend, Singing with Teacher Susie, Backseat Driving with Grandma, Scientist in the House, Sid's Super Duper Ooper Schmooper Big Idea. 4 of these segments predominantly feature music. 3 of those 4 segments stay consistent in every episode, while the 4th segment features a different song in each episode. The segments Looking for My Friends, Rug Time, and Super Fab Lab all feature brief theme songs indicating that segment of the episode. These theme songs are the same in every single episode of the show. A few other segments, such as Backseat Driving with Grandma and Scientist in the House, feature very brief musical introductions to the segment, where Sid enthusiastically sings the title of the segment for just a few seconds. However, due to their brevity, I do not really consider these instances to demonstrate substantial use of music as an educational tool. The Singing with Teacher Susie segment features a unique educational song that pertains to the main focus of the episode. The song is sung by Sid and his friend's classroom teacher, Teacher Susie, with occasional input from some of the children. The songs in these segments are primarily educational in nature, typically explaining how a particular science concept works. For example, in the episode, Getting a Shot, You Can Do It, Teacher Susie sings a song about how viruses spread via hand-to-hand contact, while in the episode entitled Sid's Holiday Adventure, Teacher Susie sings a song about how different parts of the world experience very different weather patterns at the same time. Some of the Teacher Susie songs are reused in different episodes. For example, the song about viruses appeared in both the episode Getting a Shot, You Can Do It and the episode The Big Sneeze. Sid the Science Kid has received mixed reviews over the years. The show is praised for its presentation of science content, but it has been largely criticized for its uncanny valley style of motion capture CGI animation. The show has a rating of 5.5 out of 10 on IMDb. It was nominated for 6 Daytime Emmy Awards and 1 Television Critics Association Award during its run. While the show has not produced any new episodes since 2013, the show occasionally airs in reruns on the PBS Kids channel. It is also available for streaming on the PBS Kids video app and on the Amazon Prime Video app. Splash and Bubbles. Splash and Bubbles was a relatively short-lived show on PBS Kids. The show first debuted in November of 2016. Only 40 half-hour episodes and 1 hour-long film was created for the series before it ended in August of 2018. The show follows the adventures of Splash and his best friend Bubbles, as well as many other aquatic inhabitants of Reef Town. The show is aimed at an audience of children between the ages of 4 and 7 years old. Splash and Bubbles aims to educate on themes of diversity, individuality, connectedness, discovery, and community, while also encouraging children to be excited about the marine sciences and ocean conservation. Each half-hour episode of the show is divided into 2 11-minute segments. The utilization of music in Splash and Bubbles stands out from how it is used in other PBS Kids series. Rather than featuring original songs in every episode, or only using music in occasional episodes, Splash and Bubbles boasts a catalog of 15 songs. Nearly every 11-minute episode segment contains at least one of these 15 songs. Songs relate to the lesson of the episode, and while the songs are stylized to fit narratively into the context of the plot, the songs are also used educationally to reinforce broad social and emotional learning concepts, such as standing up for oneself or taking the time to learn about others. The show received mediocre reviews, earning a score of 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. The show was nominated for an Annie Award in 2017 for Outstanding Achievement in Voice Acting in an Animated TV Broadcast Production. The show occasionally airs reruns on the PBS Kids channel, and it is available for streaming via the PBS Kids video app and on Amazon Prime Video. Super Why. Super Why first aired on PBS Kids nearly 15 years ago, in September of 2007. The show takes place in the magical land of Storybook Village and centers on main characters Wyatt Beanstalk, Littlest Pig, Little Red Riding Hood, Princess Pea, and Wooster the Dog. As a group, these characters become the Super Readers, with each character possessing a particular skill related to reading comprehension and phonics, such as spelling power, word power, which focuses on rhyming patterns, or alphabet power. The show focuses on early literacy skills for children between the ages of 3 and 6. In each 24-minute episode, at least one of the main characters find themselves faced with a super big problem, question, or mystery. As the Super Readers, the characters transport themselves into a specific book, typically based off of a common folktale or fairy tale, in order to help them find the super story answer to their super big problem. As they interact with the story and its characters, all the while reading along with the text accompanying the given story, they collect letters, which ultimately spells out their super story answer. Examples of stories explored on Super Why include Cinderella, Aladdin, and The Ant and the Grasshopper. There are also original stories featured in the show, such as The Banana Mystery and Wooster and the Pet Pack. The show primarily uses music to establish routine. In each episode, shortly after the Super Readers transform into their superhero personas, they board their Y-Flyers, which allow them to travel from their headquarters in Storybook Village into the world of the episode's book. As the Super Readers fly into the book, there is a short theme that plays, entitled Super Readers to the Rescue. Near the end of the episode, when the Super Readers leave the book and transform back into their regular selves, a very brief reprise of this song plays again. At the very end of each episode, a similar song plays, entitled Hip Hip Hooray. This song signals the end of the episode and the Super Readers' success in solving their problem. A couple of the Super Readers have a brief theme song that they will sing in each episode. These songs are simultaneously utilized to establish cues or routines and to be educational. For example, when Alpha Pig is called on to help build something in the story using his alphabet power, he will sing a rendition of the alphabet song. While the song always occurs in Alpha Pig's feature in the episode, establishing it as part of an episode's routine, the song is also educational because it is designed to help children remember the letters of the alphabet. During her featured portions of each episode, Wonder Red sings a brief song made up of words that rhyme with each other. Much like with Alpha Pig's song, Wonder Red's songs establish a routine by clarifying that it is her featured time in the episode, while also being educational and demonstrating various words that all rhyme with each other. Super Why ended in 2016 with a total of 103 episodes. The show continues to air in reruns on PBS Kids, and most of the series is also available on Amazon Prime Video. The show has a rating of 6.1 out of 10 on IMDb. Throughout its run, the show received a handful of award nominations, including nominations for a Daytime Emmy for Outstanding Preschool Children's Series in both 2008 and 2012. The future is designed to embrace innovation. Over the course of history, we have seen a dramatic evolution in television, most notably a shift in preference from live cable television to on-demand streaming services. Social media platforms like YouTube, Twitch, and TikTok have all opened up tremendous opportunities for individuals all over the world to create their own content and share it for everyone in the world to see. This allows for so many opportunities to spread new ideas that can make lasting impacts in the way that we conduct ourselves in society, including the ways in which we educate our children. Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street attempted something seemingly impossible in the late 1960s. They attempted to reach the children of the world in a way that had never been tried before. They aimed to demonstrate to children that they are loved and cared for, and to help children realize and achieve their truest academic potential. Songs from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Sesame Street continue to stick with us, even decades after we first interacted with them. These songs and these shows were fundamental elements of so many of our childhoods, and most of the shows that I discussed earlier in this video strive to achieve similar goals. And many do so with great success. We can learn from all of these shows, their histories, their messages, and their music. We can be inspired by their efforts, and we can work towards creating new television shows, new teaching and learning environments, and new pedagogies to ensure that the students of tomorrow know that they are loved, that they are smart, that they are special, and that they can achieve incredible things. But most importantly, that they will always, always have a place in the neighborhood. Thank you for watching.